Hello, Japanese horror fan lovers, and yes, the long anticipated second episode of Dissecting Cinema, an enema. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. I'm speaking
Almost
faster
got
than I
it.
can think. The second anticipated episode of Dissecting Cinema. And no, we're not going to give anybody an enema for this. You'll see that Aki is not here because she's not always available because she is a writer, actress, director of short film, and her new feature length film, which is coming out later this year, called Friends, something like that. I need to get the English title, but it'll only be in Japan. But we'll keep you updated with that later. But sometimes she'll pop in. But you should recognize my co-host partner. Actually, we're both hosts on here, but he is from Arguably Awesome Podcast, which I'm also the host of, Mr. Ayrflo, who also has a channel, Ayrflo Gaming. You want to say something, buddy?
Hell yeah, it's a pleasure to be on Dissecting Cinema. I personally am I don't know what you want to call it, like a Japanophile. Like, I definitely love anything Japanese. Not so much of a horror guy personally, but over the years I have gotten my chops up and I'm able to, intake more of like the campier side of horror. The psychological stuff that the Japanese are really well known for in their films kind of throws me off a bit, but I do love a good thriller. And I do love, like I said, some campy horror. Usually,
Oh,
especially if
yeah.
it's heavily based on Japanese lore, because I feel like it's like a learning experience at the same time. Yeah.
Like yokai, that's some great. That's a whole nother thing, folklore in Japan. It's like we got ours over here, but theirs is like Mondo times 10.
Yeah, I love
But
learning
yeah,
about yokai.
I know they are great, and in this, I don't know if it's this season or next season, but I believe it's this season. We will be cover. I can't speak, guys. We will be covering the Yokai Monsters trilogy,
Mm.
which I love the first movie. It's fantastic, and I know I shared that file with my buddy Airflow here, and he fell in love with it. Why wouldn't you? You have so many yokai monsters attacking at once in a movie, but that's neither here or there. We'll get to that later on in the season.
Mm-hmm.
But today we're talking about Kon Ichikawa's 1976 film, which is one of the very many after it influential horror films from Japan. It's his first film. It's about a family who have a murder, or no, not a murder. Sorry, an old heir who is a founder of a pharmaceutical company in a small village passes, and as he passes, before he can read the rights to his will, he dies. And the family is just fighting to get to own the company, but also own other assets of his will and like the house and whatnot. But the mystery continues as to how there are people being murdered throughout the film. So let me just read a quick synopsis. The film is the first of Kon Ichikawa's and Koji Ishizaka's Kaidachi series. So Kaidachi is a detective, and I will share my screen to show you some other films that same actor who plays Kaidachi stars as that detective in, which I didn't know. So it's kind of one film he didn't star as the detective, but the rest after that and before he did. Ichikawa remade the film in 2006 called The Inugamis. It was his last film actually before he died a year later, I believe, a year or two later. Um the soundtrack is composed by Yuji Ono. And if anybody knows Yuji Ono, I sure don't, but I'm sure there's some Japanese music lovers out there of film scores and whatnot who should know who he is. So yes, Airflow, do you want to touch up on the synopsis of the story at all?
Yes, part of it was harder for me to get through the translation of the subtitles at first. It all became a little bit more clear as the film progressed. But I
Same.
thought it was pretty interesting from that first opening scene of like what's his name, Seihi or Sahei, the Inugami family head who was trying to read his will before passing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a great way to start the film. It definitely sets the tone,
Oh
not
yeah.
only like, cinemagraphically, but it sets the tone as far as like what you're getting yourself into. It's definitely like a detective thriller, and they make that pretty apparent quickly.
Oh yeah.
With that being said, there's definitely lots of camp. There's lots of quirky characters and
It was the
campy
70s.
situations. You know, it's a 70s film, so it's got
And
that
it
nice
seems like a lot of
vibe.
Japanese films were like that back then.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much in American films. That's when it was starting to progress with suspense and seriousness. But yes, in Asian cinema, I could see that a lot. But it still made it fun. Still
When a
great.
few characters get scared during some of the um, murder reveals. Yeah.
No, yeah, I know.
Funny, dude. I swear one of them even goes cross-eyed at one point. I was just like, no.
No. That, I wonder what constipation from all the horror that's going on. But yes, Kon Ichikawa's The Inugamis. Now this is where I should be rolling that intro. Hit it. Did you like that?
It was pretty sick, honestly. No, that's good.
I'll need to at some point edit you in there because you'll probably be in here more prominently than Aki because she's so busy. But I'm hoping we can get her for her film Tag from 2015. All three of us will be in there. Who was in this film? So we had Koji Ishisaka as Kosuke Kindaichi, or Kindaichi.
Is it Kindaichi?
Kindaichi, I think so. Yes. Man, it's really these names.
I was getting mixed up on some of these names too, man.
I know, we got to see who is who. You start. It's like the game Clue. You got to start writing these names down. This and they were there at that time. You like got to who's who, because I was getting the old. Before I continue with the character cast, I was getting the old lawyer confused as the detective. Then this new guy called the Traveler, and then I'm like, wait. So this guy the Traveler seems to be in this more than the old guy. So what's the? But I guess the lawyer hired Kindaichi.
You're talking about Mr. Furata or something like that. Furatachi?
Furatachi, where is
That's
that name?
Oh,
Furutate. Is it Kyozo Furutate? Furutate.
From the Furata lawyer law firm.
Oh man, guys, we are really horrible at these.
Horrible.
Detective Tachibana? No. But anyway, while he's doing that, I'll go through the list. We have Tamayo. You know that it was a little bit comedic in the movie too when Tamayo and Kosuke interact with each other in that little inn that he stays in when he arrives into the small village. She just has eyes for him off the bat, and I'm like, wait, is this supposed to be a little bit of a comedy in the horror? And I was like, this is interesting. So that's played by Yoko Shimada, and Koji and Yoko do star in some other films by Ichikawa as well. Notable, I should get into some films about Mr. Kon Ichikawa. He was born in 1915, a year before my grandfather, who passed in 1916. His films are notably, I have them written here.
I did finally find it, by the way, not to interrupt, but go ahead, brother.
Good, because we're going to need it. He did 47 Ronin. I feel like Ronin was a remake in America, but I could be wrong. The name Ronin's familiar. So it's 47 ramen, 47 ramens. Ooh. 47 Ronin, 10 Dark Women. Being 2 isn't easy. I really want to see that. And the Inugamis, 2006, a remake. But yes.
Oh, wow. Nice.
What do we have here?
2006.
Yeah. I thought it was a sequel, but it was a remake. Teruhika Aoi as Tsukiyo Inugami, Mieko Takamine as Matsuko, and some other characters.
Tsukikyo.
Yes, some other characters that were in there. Yeah. It's crazy. But yeah, it's just a head-turning mystery bender.
Well,
what do you got now? What's that information you saw?
So it was Mr. Furatachi from the Furata law firm.
Okay, good.
The lawyer who gets charged with finishing the reading of the will. Now, the will can't be read until all family members are present. That plays a big part in the story because we get some reveals later on that are pretty fucking wild. But Mr. Furata is charged with reading the will, and then Detective Kindaichi is charged by another character to basically be like a witnessing party / protection. I don't really. I think he was there to kind of like. Well, you remember when Mr. Wakayabashi or whatever hires him in the beginning. He hires him to like, I guess, kind of be a part of the proceedings. I don't think I quite understood why Wakayabashi hired him, to be honest.
That is true. That was your first, what you were thinking at first?
When he first hires him, I to be honest, I still don't think I understand why Wakayabashi hired Kindaichi.
Well, it's obvious because obviously he can't be doing the the looking around in the house because he's a lawyer. I think he needs somebody else because it might be a conflict of interest because he's a legal and so he needs somebody undercover to see if his suspicions are true, and see what's really going on. You know what I mean, like a conflict of interest.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and then sad part after. Oh gosh. Well, we'll get to the funny part first. So when we first see Kindaichi, he arrives in town, and he's looking for the Inugami Family Inn. And this woman comes up and he's like, hey, yo, like, where's the inn? I'm trying to get to the Inugami Inn. Oh, why would you want to stay there? And she says, that place is a dump. It's whatever. It's crap. He's like, hey, I got to get there. It's the place to be. That's what I hear. I'm going to go there. And she's like, okay, well, I can lead the way. I work there. And he's like, you're talking so much shit on a place where you work at. Come on, what's the deal? She takes him up there, and of course, she's the head receptionist. And that's all well and good, shows him to his room, he signs under like a fake name because, it's mysterious. And from his room, he spots Tamayo, who Akar brought up earlier.
In the boat? Are we talking about the boat scene?
Figure. The boat scene, yeah. Ridiculous. So basically, her boat capsizes. He can see it happening. So he gets in a boat himself and tries to row out to her. On the other bank across the way, another mysterious man sees her about to drown, and he jumps into the water and somehow beats this boat in a race, swimming, breaststroke, left, right, whatever. Like, beats the man in the boat, even though he can't really do anything. Like, he's not going to push a capsizing boat out of the water. But that little bit of camp in the beginning let me know exactly what kind of movie I was getting into, and I was very excited.
But it didn't just capsize, it was sabotaged. There was a hole in the boat. Dun dun dun.
Attempted murder.
I just had to say that cliche word. White people always say. But a murder takes place not long after that rescue. In that inn he stays at where Tamayo works.
Yes.
So
they hear a blood-curdling scream after they rescue Tamayo.
No. Sorry. I'm wrong. Tamayo does not work at that inn. She was the person taking care of the heir. What was the heir's name again? So I'm trying to keep that name. It's the man who died.
I
Mr.
have it written
Inugami.
down
We'll
as like
just say Mr. Inugami.
Yeah, I have it written down as like Sahe.
Tamayo to him was who?
S-A-H-E-I.
Was his like live-in nurse,
well,
right?
okay. I was like, don't spoil the big one. But yes. Yes, that's exactly right. She was the one who came back and took care of him.
Yes.
When he started getting sick.
Yes. So that's why I was getting confused for a second. We're going to mislead a lot of people. So yeah, a murder had just taken place. Who was it that was snuffed out in that inn? Did we ever find out?
The first person to die, like the first body we saw, was Mr. Wakayabashi, the person who hired Kindaichi to come down there in the first place. And so now he's like, whoa, my boss is dead. What the hell? And I think shortly after that is when he gets in contact with the police because they try to drag him in almost as a suspect at first until they backed up his credentials with the Tokyo police force to determine that he was really who he said he was. And that's when he meets Furutachi and the commissioner of the police force, and they all discuss exactly what it is that he's doing there and why. And I think that part I might have. That's where I probably lost some of the details of what Kayabashi had hired him for. But that's my fault. I'll own up to that.
It's a mind bender game for foreigners. At least that's what I think. 'Cause we were both confused a little bit. Too many names were being said.
I know. For instance, for Kindaichi, that's his last name, or his family name, his given name, I think.
Yep.
For his first name, I had like Yokomizo. I had Kinosuke. I wrote something else down. I have what did I write down at one point? Kosuke. I was like, I don't know what this man's name is. But
a lot of E's at the end of these names.
Ooh, yes, lots of E's at the end of it.
That's probably why we were getting confused, because they all had a lot of E's at the end. I'm like, wait, what A was this guy? Oh my goodness.
What was interesting to me though was that I don't know if he had ever met Wakayabashi before, because when he discovers his dead body, he asked the lady at the inn if she knows who he is, and she identifies him to Kindaichi. I thought that was kind of interesting, because I was like, don't they know each other maybe? Or is it just like a long distance correspondence perhaps?
But eventually, after figuring out what's going on, the detective and the lawyer team up, and they start getting aliases and occupations for the members of the family to rule things out. Because that town depends on the pharmaceuticals. But why did they choose that location for pharmaceuticals? We will find out later in the movie.
I mean, I don't think we even explained that Mr. Inugami was a pharmaceutical company
I
head,
mentioned it at the beginning, but very briefly. Because he started there because they didn't have pharmaceuticals there. Like, they had to order it long distance and wait long days to get it back then. But then he opened up a pharmaceutical business, so it's imported there, so that now the townspeople could get their medicines and needs from there closer.
Yeah. I finally found my notes about why Wakayabashi hired Kindaichi.
Okay, what did it say? Fill us in, you lucky lad.
So basically, Wakayabashi hired Detective Kindaichi because there was a book on the Inugami family that described, things about their family, this, that, and the other. But it also had a curse that was mentioned in the book, that tragedy would befall the family before long. And basically, he wanted to try and hire Kindaichi to help avert that said tragedy. From my understanding, the commissioner, and Furatachi and Kindaichi are all talking about the authenticity of the information that was discussed in the will. Unfortunately, they can't turn over the will to the police just yet, because it does serve a purpose with the family, and it needs to be handled first.
Yeah.
Let's see. The reason why the will hasn't been read fully yet, we mentioned, was because they were waiting for their family to gather in its entirety. And their family member, Sukekiyo, who was one of the three grandsons of Mr. Inugami, was missing at the moment after he had gone off to serve his time in the war, in the army, and he hadn't returned home yet. And so he was supposed to be returning soon at that point, so that they could proceed further with with the reading of the will.
We're introduced to Sukekiyo not long after that. Aliases and occupations are being investigated. He arrives there with what's her name? His mother.
Matsuko.
Matsuko, yeah. Who seemed like a sure suspect.
Oh my gosh, man! They did a lot of good red herrings in the movie, where it's like.
But it seems too easy at the same time to have it be her. But yes, continue.
Before we're introduced to Sukekiyo, we are introduced to Umeko, her husband Kokuichi, who manages, I want to say it's the west branch of the Inugami pharmaceutical company in Kobe, and their son Suketomo, who's one of the three grandsons of, the freaking grandfather, Mr. Inugami, and it looks like he has a thing for Sayako, the girl who works at the inn as the receptionist.
Which was comedically great. I loved it.
Their whole thing between them two, man, it's cute. I was building a ship for them, I'm not gonna lie. But
going back to Sukekiyo, does the family know who he is? Because I feel like they didn't at first, but they do, from what I'm understanding. They do know who he is, right? They do know that's the son of Tamayo.
They
Oh, not Tamayo. I can't remember these people's names. Let's
they
say the
know
mother.
that he's Matsuko's son.
Yeah.
They
But they've never met him?
They know that they know of him before he went off to the war. So Umeko gets a call during this scene to come and meet with Matsuko, who just came back from fetching Sukekiyo.
Yeah.
And eventually we do see the scene where Sukekiyo arrives, and when he steps out of the vehicle that he arrives in, homie looks like some crazy ass shit. For lack of a better word. He's got this crazy ass mask. And
Michael Myers of Japan before Michael Myers.
It was pretty creepy. That's spot on, dude. Yes.
So yeah, they do know who he is, but they demand at the circle, when the lawyer has the will to bring back to talk about with everybody, since all of the family has gathered finally, they demand him to take off the mask, but the mother's defending him like, he shouldn't have to do that to prove that he's my son. You guys should know my son. Why would I fake I have a son or something like that? But he eventually does lift his mask in that scene, I believe, or was later on, but I think, yeah, in the scene, he does lift his mask, and obviously, they're not gonna,
Bro.
he burned his face. His face is burned.
Bro, the part where he pulls his mask off and there's another fucking mask had me dead.
The double mask. They're like,
I was like, no, he did it. I was like, no, he did not. It's slightly more human, but still creepier looking face too.
It's almost, yeah. I like the white mask, but it's like Scooby Doo when they pull off the mask. Hey, he's wearing another mask. Where's the real one?
I wrote down in my notes when he lifts up his second mask. I wrote down that he lifts his mask to reveal some gross ass shit.
Some gross ass shit indeed. Tamayo inherits the Inugami estate. In the end, we learn that she inherits it, but only if she marries one of the grandsons. And if she doesn't, then she gets nothing. In that case, it all goes to Suzuma. And man, does Suzuma really want it. But the grandsons, I think, were kind of interested in her because they also wanted it too. So it's kind of maybe a lie. And if not located Suzuma at that time, I don't think Suzuma was there. So if they can't locate Suzuma, then and confirm the death, either way, it will go to the foundation. I think the pharmaceutical foundation. Remember, there's a foundation where the shrines are. The Shinori, is it Torigate? Torigate shrines, yeah.
The shrine heads and all that. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah, I believe that is the foundation. So yeah,
definitely a lot of like, it's a full like 5 minutes of them being like, if she doesn't choose these 3 guys, then these 3 guys and 2 other people get it, and if all of those people die, then this person gets it, and if that person dies, then this person gets it, and if everybody's dead, then the estate gets it. And I'm just like, damn, okay. I mean, like that's a will.
It's like a forced arranged marriage.
Jeez. I mean, jeez, they were making sure they had all their bases covered. That's for sure.
But she approaches Sukitake.
Well, before that, I mean, the family's in an uproar, man. They're like, "Hey, I got left out of the will, or I can't believe that this person gets money first before me." When like all this other bullshit, everybody's pissed. They're pissed.
Of course, typical cliche.
And then we see her approaching.
Well, he
did you say Sukitake?
He knew they were a dirty family, greedy.
But to be honest, I'd be greedy too when 1/5 of a share of that drug company is worth 550 million. I think it was yen, because it would make sense for them to be talking about yen instead of US dollars.
Keyword, damn. Drug company.
That is crazy. 550 million. I mean, what would you even do with that? What would you even do?
That results, all those premeditated written stuff in the will makes the family think that it's a fake will, and they have to go through these steps to prove that it's not. So, I mean, chaos ensues, of course. The money seems to amount to, in American, to 550 million, if I'm not mistaken. So, that's a lot of, man, pharmaceuticals back then make that much money? Well, I wonder how much that would be in today's society. But this only leads to more like rumors of adultery. I mean, rumors, adultery, etc. It's talked about almost like a Clue scenario. So, like, you don't know what's real, what's like.
In fact, while discussing some of the theories, bro, about the case, Kindaichi asked Furutachi if Wakayabashi was in love with anybody, and Wakayabashi says, Furutachi says that he was in love with Tamayo.
I would believe it. I mean, Hugh Hefner, Donald Trump. What other old people get young women because they're rich?
So I guess from that point, you're so funny. You're so stupid.
Shit. I mean, I forgot to mention Leonardo DiCaprio's in that category too.
Oh, and then there becomes this weird like Ocean's 11 moment where everybody's trying to confirm Sukikyo's identity.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that part?
They didn't even know that she's real or something like this.
Like, okay, we're gonna split into two teams. Okay, you guys head up to the shrine. We need you to confirm this handprint that Sukekyo made before he went off to the war. And if the handprint matches, that there's a dead ringer. You know, he can't lose. But if it's not, then obviously he came back from the war a different asshole.
Oh shit.
Which is fine, which is fun, you know. And then you got Team B, Team 2B, whatever, B2, to be or not to be. To
BB8.
be Sukekyo is what he was hoping
Bingo.
for. Oh yeah, so the second plot, Tamayo asked Sukekyo to fix an old watch for her that he fixed a long time ago before he went to war. It's kind of heartwarming. You could almost read the pain on his face through the mask. And then he gets all weird and he disappears and he like runs off like a little baby. He's like arms are swinging to the side. Just kidding. But yeah, it's definitely awkward. She's like trying to pull this like I swear she's like giving what's her face from like Little Shop of Horrors or whatever. She's like, would you just fix this watch for me?
Come on, just fix the watch for me, please.
So funny.
But you're missing a key part to Sukekyo. Before that, where does the lawyer and the detective go? They go to the shrine.
I don't know. Well, yeah, I mentioned the shrine first. They're Team A.
To confirm that Sukekyo is dead. The men at the shrine that, I took note of this. The men at the shrine that meet the lawyer and the detective believe that Sukekyo is dead.
Oh, so they think him taking the handprint is worthless anyways?
Yeah, because they're like, it just doesn't match up. And he hides his face because he's, disfigured, but why not? I mean, that's what they would do back then. They didn't have technology advanced enough to fix your face.
But the shrine guys were pretty much like, I'm telling you, he's gone. I didn't catch that, damn.
But then later, Tamayo shows the old belongings to Sukekyo to see if he remembers any of them, and he doesn't seem too interested, which was like, why isn't he too interested? Scars from the past, no pun intended. But yeah, it's a man, a messy, hairy. Oh, sorry. In that scene also where that's being happened, there's this man that's always in the scene, watching from behind a distance. He looks messy. He's hairy. He looks like he's that was like the third time that I've seen him looking around, eavesdropping, spying. But who was he? You mentioned him earlier when we were on the phone a couple days ago, trying to talk about this.
Yes, that is the character Enzo, which appears to be like a manservant or some sort of aide to Lady Tamayo. Or Tamayo. He seems like he has some sort of like very protective, if not almost like romantic sense of protection. Although who knows, maybe it's just paternal. And
I didn't get that, but you make a good point.
I mean, he definitely almost seemed like he was like, I mean, Love from afar kind of sense. Not like he was really trying to be in a relationship with her, but he definitely was never going to let anything happen to her because he cared for her a lot.
And either he or she believes that Tsukikyo's the rightful heir to all of this.
I want to say it was her, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it would obviously be her. I mean, he's not the father.
So at this point, we are introduced to another masked man.
Mm-hmm. Was this the one that's at the police station at nighttime? Or was that when Tsukikyo's... Wait, so that's not Tsukikyo at the police station just tying his shoe? That's a different man?
The one where they keep referring to him as the traveler or the veteran. He checks in to the inn and he's got his face wrapped.
That totally went over my head because I was trying to look down, take notes, pause, look down. Man, so you were able to catch on more than I was.
Yeah, that guy won't use his name when he checks in because it's a law they explain early in the film that you're supposed to write your own name when you check in. And he's like, oh, I'm not going to do it. And they're like, oh, well, just do it. And he's like, oh, I can't write. And they're like, what are you talking about? Everybody can write. Just do it. I'm not going to break the law and write your name in the book. So he writes some totally bogus name and then leaves almost as soon as he checks in, it seems. Probably just a cut of the film,
pretty much.
I don't know. And then something startling happens the very next day.
Well, the detectives notice that the chrysanthemum mannequins from the third act, that's what it's supposed to be. It's labeled the third act for where the mannequins are standing. There's like a little title. What does it mean? What's the third act mean? But they resemble the family members. That's what it means. Each mannequin represents each of the family members, the prominent family members. Not every single one of them. That'd be too many. But they all wearing chrysanthemums, and if anybody doesn't know what that is, Google it. They're flowers. But one seems to have a real human head once the camera pans to it, and it looks a little comedic, like it was made of confetti paper or clay or something.
It's like a little paper mache face.
Mid-70s Japan special effects. They didn't have the help of other countries at that time to improve the effects. They were a little bit behind. But still, it was comedic. The head falls off. Wait, don't they touch the head or something? Or
Somebody eventually realizes that the head looks like one of the grandsons, Suketake. And so they get a little closer and kind of poke at it, and it just flops to the ground and rolls like a dismembered head.
How was the reaction from the people present in that scene?
Yes, hella grossed out. In fact, I think King Daichi was there, Detective King Daichi, and he's like freaking out. He's like never seen anything so gross before. He is appalled. Ah! He's like flapping at his clothes like he's trying to brush the germs off. It was quite the overreaction.
Good.
Oh man,
shoot.
So funny, dude. Oh man.
But in that scene, they find some jewelry,
yes. What?
like an earring or a pendant or something.
It was something like that. Something like that you would pin. Oh, okay. The commissioner tells Furutachi to turn over the will to the police after this. Meanwhile, King Daichi finds jewelry belonging to Tamayo at the scene of Suketake's death. I do want to say it was a brooch that we had seen earlier.
Yeah, a brooch,
the
yes.
on.
And Tsukikyo's also, his hand is painted at this time, after this situation, to see what's going on, kid.
I think Tsukikyo agrees to finally do this to try and alleviate some suspicion, since everybody's been like, dude, if you don't do this, I'm 1,000% guarantee that you're a different person than who you say you are. And we're not going to give you a single red cent. So he goes and, does the print match, and they turn it into the, police to try and, do the confirmation of the match there. Shortly
and we
after,
get a flashback at this time.
We do get the flashback at this time. After Tamayo is confronted by King Daichi and I can't remember who else. I want to say Furutachi was there as well. She claims that she gave Suketake a watch with Tsukikyo's handprint on it to try and also do her part to verify the identity of this masked man. Unfortunately, at this point, Suketake just tries to force himself on her. Gross.
Not surprised. Not
But-
surprised.
But yeah, Enzo comes in there and they have like a whole fight. It's like a whole real fisticuff, but it's funny
Yep.
because it's more of just like a grapple. They're just kind of mostly grappling. At one point, Enzo kind of tosses the guy to the side and then rushes in for another grapple. And they're not like choking each other. They're just kind of like locking wrists.
Yeah. Some close-ups for action shots, you know. They got to do what they got to do with what they had. Was this before the weapons found or during?
This is before.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, correct. Yeah, this is before. Yes. In fact, I don't even know if it's the very next day, but I do have that after she
I know.
tells the story.
Sometimes it seems like it's coming on the same day that this stuff's happening. You don't know if it's the next day, but usually they do nighttime transitions. It seems like.
A lot of fade through color, you know, that kind of thing. So I just wrote it down as the next day. A kid calls the police and brings them to a boat with bloody tools. I think it's like an axe and some other stuff in it.
Definitely an axe.
Now the police, they really like Enzo for the crime, seeing as how he has access to the boathouse, like the boathouse keys, and keeping it all locked and under control. That's on Enzo. And they said that when he brought up the story the other day that he didn't report that a boat was missing, and that seems suspicious. And he was also one of the last people to see Suketake before his death, and they got into a violent altercation. So it just looks really messy for Enzo. Very.
And then,
yes.
the detective again. Who is he?
The detective's name is Kindaichi.
Kindaichi. So Kindaichi arrives at the inn where he's staying, and then there's the lawyer there. Coincidence? I don't know. At first, I was starting to think that Kindaichi was the murderer.
They did have me thinking he was in on it.
I was confused at first because of these names that we mentioned so many times, but I was like, wait, now is he the murderer? I was thinking Tamayo for a second. I'm like, shoot, I'm out. I give up trying to guess.
I got another name for you.
What?
We find out at one point when they go to the inn that the guy who was wearing the mask at the inn that left at one point in the night, he signed his name as Sanpei Yamada, whoever the heck that is.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, at this point, the mother's definitely losing her fucking mind. She don't know what's going on anymore with all these people dying and then the names, false names, and driving her nuts. I thought she was, at this point, I'm like, okay, she's not the murderer then.
So at this point, we are led to believe that there's multiple masked figures running around.
Shit's about to get real.
Sukekiyo's prints prove legit. So we are looking at a disfigured Sukekiyo, it would appear. Allegedly, you know. Let's see. Suketake's sister tells Tamayo that she is pregnant with Suketomo's baby, the other grandson.
Dun, dun.
So it's not just a flirtatious thing anymore. Now Suketomo has impregnated this woman, and they are ready to elope. She is basically threatening Tamayo that it would be very bad for her if she were to try and choose Suketomo as her husband to seal the deal and receive the estate. Meanwhile, again, Enzo is lurking in the background, listening in, hiding in the shadows.
Well, my thing is, this whole situation has me kind of wondering, after a while, I'm wondering, why are these people dying because of the will, but why is this will so important? I know it's a lot of money, but is there more at play here than pharmaceuticals? Because I know the drugs, it's drugs, and pharmaceutical drugs are worth a lot if you do it at black market and you sell it elsewhere, but the plantation is later explained where the pharmaceuticals building, the foundation was planted, was chosen by Mr. Inugami because all the plants around there, the flowers, were a big reason. Because you have opium, heroin, and morphine that you can gather from those plants. given that poppy plants can hold drugs within their workings, thinking Mr. Inugami planted them there in the fields years prior purposely, so he'd have a reason to go there, and by that time when he's old enough, he would have enough planted there to continue to grow and take from them to create, what is now known as Inugami Pharmaceuticals. Boom.
Let me see. Everybody runs to see what's going on, and a few people take over the chase for the masked guy. And then Tamio trips over Sukikiyo, who's just lying on the ground maskless.
Mm-hmm.
And her face of horror when she finds him had me cracking up, dude.
I can't do it. It's like impossible for my face to do.
Oh my gosh. She passes out cold.
That's the best
and then let's see. Suke Take's body resurfaces in the lake, and it's just his legs sticking up in the air.
A very iconic piece of scene, by the way, that's been parodied in Japan many times. I don't know why. It's just so it's an awkward thing to look at, which I could guess why it's so famous.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's like you just picture like his head just like stuck in the mud, and his like rigor mortis legs are just like.
Yeah.
It's a totally embarrassing look, dude. Like his whatever outfit he was wearing is like flopped down around his waist. It's like, oh my gosh.
And who was that, Eric, in the water?
That was Suke Take, the one who was decapitated.
Bum. And we find out how that happens later in a flashback scene, which actually is kind of cool.
Yeah. The police were able to determine that the time of death was between 11 p.m. to midnight due to a stab in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
Tamio seems more and more suspicious by the day.
Yeah.
More and more suspicious.
Mommy dearest.
Anthony already told you about the secret to the Inugami drug's success with the poppy roots, and everything that he was able to make from it. And then Anthony is talking about
the second approach.
Silliest, horrible. I don't even know what to call it. Just go for it.
So, Tamayo is approached by a man in a boat now about, hey, come here, we gotta meet with the commissioner, he wants to talk to you, but suddenly subdued by, what do they call that?
I want to say this guy is,
what's he use on her mouth? What do they call that?
Oh, chloroform.
Chloroform! I'm assuming that's what they always use in the chloroform to cover your mouth, it's always chloroform. But, taken to an abandoned house, unconscious. A creepy vibe goes on as it looks like something is, rapey's about to happen. But not long after, I can't say the name. Sukekyo arrives. How did he know?
Are you sure?
He seems to always be watching. He's always watching. He seems to always be watching, So.
I don't know if it's time to give that one away yet.
Well, that's where my notes end, and where yours continue.
Where mine continue.
Yes.
So basically, Tamio gets saved from the sexual deviant, and Umiko, the wife of Kokuichi, is being questioned about killing Sukitake. Random. Let's see. Enzo is called Sanpei. It's called by Sanpei to go rescue Tamio. Now, Sanpei was the name of the guy with the second mask.
Yep.
Who was doing all that stuff. He basically runs into Enzo as he's rushing away from having just kicked the crap out of, I believe it was Suketomo at this point, who was trying to force himself onto Tamio. So Enzo goes to rescue her or whatever. Now, looking back at this point, we flash to Kindaichi, who is looking at the forensics report and figures out that someone has been using laced cigarettes with a poppy-based poison, most notably being used on Wakayabashi. Wow. Let's see. Suke Tomo is found later on at one point by Tamio, dead on the roof.
Yes, that famous scene. They can see her through the glass part of the roof.
She just looks up and there's a dead body staring at her like that.
Like the blood over here in the corner.
That. Yeah, just like that. Gosh, another comical scene as somebody screams at a dead body.
I can only imagine. Why would they do it like that? Well, I guess at that time, maybe it seemed realistic.
I'm just like, what the heck is this? What? What is going on there? I mean, the explanation does make sense near the end, but
Yeah.
wow.
Oh, because she was shocked. You know, when people die of shock, they die of shock, like that. I guess so. That makes sense.
At some point, we finally figure out that the clan symbols, the Inugami clan symbols, the axe, the koto, and the chrysanthemum, are being used in themed murders of the three grandsons. One having his head chopped
Staying
off with
true
an
to
axe,
form.
one being left, killed and left amongst the chrysanthemums, and then another one being killed. Was this one the koto? I think this one's the koto murder because they find a koto string on the dead body.
Mm-hmm.
A koto being that Japanese like
Traditional
instrument.
stringed instrument, yes.
Yes.
We love those.
Very
You hear them
nice.
everywhere if you listen to traditional Japanese music, people, or modern fusion. Oh, well, there's my dog sneaking in, scaring me. Here, Deacon. Oh, a little creepy that we're talking about creepy movies, and this dog's scaring me because I haven't turned the lights on in the hallway.
I
Anyway,
cannot remember for the life of me who Madame Takeo is, but I wrote her name down. I think she's one of the other. I think she's
older
the
people
mother
of
for.
the family.
I think she's Suketomo's son. Mom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the older heirs. Yep.
Now the police they put out a warrant for Shizuma, with one of the other people who was standing
Who
to
we've been waiting.
gain.
Yeah.
They basically deem him to be the veteran in the second mask, and they're like, no, we're gonna go ahead, put out a warrant for Shizuma, and we're gonna get his ass because this is not cool.
Not cool, dude.
We learn from the head of the shrine, the current head of the shrine, that Sahei was saved as an orphan by the old head of the shrine at 17 years old. The old man named Nonomiya was also the one who bankrolled Sahei's pharmaceutical company.
The plot thickens.
At one point, Mr. Furutachi, and I think that I got this right with I think I got this right. It was believed that Mr. Furutachi, it was believed that the two men had an affair, but what really happened was Mr. Nonomiya was inert. He couldn't have children, and so he basically allowed. He basically allowed Sahei to lay with his wife, and they have a child.
Oh, he's
and
impotent.
That child turns out to be none other than Tamayo, the product of an affair between this young man and another man's wife.
Bingo, son.
Well, the current head of the shrine,
turns.
whose name turns out to be Oyama, confirms that he is a distant relative to the Nonomiya clan and has lived there himself for over 15 years. Wow. Oh, sorry. Tamayo isn't Sahei's daughter. Sorry, she's his granddaughter. He had her mother. Gosh dang it! Is it Sayako? No, Sayako's the other one.
It's one of them peoples.
Let's see. Nonomiya couldn't have children, so he let his wife, Madame Haruyo, have sex with Sahei, and he had a daughter named Konko, and Konko birthed Tamayo. Now, at this point, it's getting thick.
Yeah. It's near the end that's really going to be like, huh?
Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed with the, I don't know, the twists and turns that it started taking at this point. At this point, I was getting confident that I knew who these people were. I was catching the names a lot quicker. I was like, all the pieces, they're not quite lined up for me, but I can see something. Kindaichi implies that Sahei is somehow responsible for everything that's happened, but is reminded that he's been dead for 7 months at this point in the film. 7 months has passed since the beginning of the film. Did not realize how much time was passing, to be honest, until they said that. I was just like, holy crap. So now Suke Kiyo's
That is
mother,
kind of a mind bender.
right? I mean, yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't notice that in the movie, so you bringing that up is all new news to me.
Oh, dude. Yeah, it took me a minute. I was like, wow. I didn't realize that much time had passed.
Now, without spoiling anything, have we already found out by now that the masked man is
We
somebody?
haven't quite revealed fully.
Okay, good.
We're
I don't want to
like-
say anything.
It's like almost there. It's like almost there, I think.
Oh, we're getting so close I can smell the money.
Like, in fact, I can see it on the next page. Lady Matsuko asked for Tamio's decision about marrying her son Sukekiyo because
Still
he is
on
the
her
last.
pussy about that.
Well, he's the last remaining grandson, so she's like, it's either you want the money or you don't. Marry my grandson and get your inheritance, or don't. You know, it's your call.
He didn't seem
Balls
too
in their
interested in her, though.
No, because honestly, he just left silently after Tamio was like, "That's not Sukekiyo," and leaves.
Yeah.
She's like, "That's not him. That's not him at all."
He's like, shit, I gotta get out of here. I can't breathe in this.
You're so funny. Let's see. Matsuko has a flashback of the mask being made for her son after he returned for war. Sukekiyo arriving and being horribly disfigured. And then at one point, Sukekiyo comes into the room all like scary reveal style. It's like a flash of lightning, and then he's in the doorway. Now, mind you, he's not- oh my god. I like that he explained it all the way in the beginning. He's like, "Oh, my face is burnt, and so was my throat, so my voice sounds really weird too." It's a very weird raspy voice. He kind of reminds me of Orochimaru from Naruto.
Ah, good connection.
Yeah, he's just like, mother, let me peel back my skin.
Or that one actor who played in what's that Torch trilogy? The something Torch trilogy with the guy Matthew Broderick and whatnot, and he also plays the hairdresser in Mrs. Doubtfire. Yeah, you talk to your mother like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it sounds like. Okay, the Torch song trilogy. Great trilogy, by the way, people. Not Japanese. Anyway, continue.
You can tell I'm familiar with it. Now, at this point, finally, we get the reveal that Sukekiyo is really Suzumiya Seisio all along. The son
He was
of
right
Kikuno.
there in front of you.
That's right under your big fat nose.
So he was technically found, and then technically dead too.
He reveals that he is the child of Kikuno, who is referred to by the family as basically like someone of lower status who Sahei had an affair with, and they believe, or no, his daughter, someone in their family had an affair with this lady. She's shamed. They throw her out into the street. She's like, I curse you all to fucking hell. How dare you? I have just as much right to this as you do. Go to hell. I'm gonna curse you, your family, your whole family. Tragedy on your family, dishonor on your family.
That kind of shit that happens in Asia, when you tarnish the family name, you are of lower status, and if you marry somebody who's widowed or divorced.
Yep.
Boom.
Yep. That's true. Suzumiya, he recalls how he approached Sukekiyo in Burma during the war. His and Sukekiyo's units were wiped out due to a botched joint operation, and he assumed Sukekiyo's identity after becoming heavily disfigured. We see the mother and Sukekiyo get into a weird kind of thing, where he's kind of like lording over her as he's telling her this stuff, and she's just kind of staring at him in like abject horror, and then it kind of just cuts. And then all of a sudden, the next time we see anything, Sukekiyo's body is found in the lake, half submerged, with an axe wound in the neck. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, that was fast. He just revealed who he was.
Well, wouldn't you kill him too if it turned out it wasn't your actual son? Mm-hmm. What did he think was going to happen? But he laughs hysterically. He's like, ha 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 ha.
He was like, I'm going to take down your whole family and there's nothing you can do about it. And she's just kind of like, oh, be damned if
Ridiculous.
I don't. I can't remember at this point how it becomes revealed, but the second masked man is revealed to be the real Sukekiyo all along. I think he reveals himself to Tamayo, actually.
And he seems traumatized because of everything that's been happening. And from the war, I would assume. But yeah.
He reveals that he killed the other grandsons. Like a bitch.
So wait, they were working together?
Sukekiyo and the
Suzuma?
fake Sukekiyo? Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Murder to hire.
Fairly weird. Let's see. Sukekiyo tried to kill the other grandsons in an attempt to free Tamayo from having to live this life.
Crazy. He I guess he didn't really want to be a part of that family. He was like, fucking hey, can't handle this shit. Too much drama, money, Kardashians.
Oh. That's what happens when your family gets too big. Basically, he tries to run off and is attacked by Enzo, who holds him in place for the police to come bursting into the room and capture his ass. Mm-hmm. Tamayo gives Detective Kindaichi a signed confession by Sukekiyo, which is actually later confirmed to be legit, like he wrote it. Detective Kindaichi believes that Sukekiyo, after much interrogation and, kind of like reading his body language and just kind of putting two and two together, he thinks that not only did Sukekiyo not murder everyone, but he's protecting the real killer. And at that point, to Sukekiyo's jargon, he correctly guesses that Lady Matsuko was the one who killed all the grandsons. And Sukekiyo crumbles to the ground, just horrified that he basically had to give up his mother. Distraught, soul broken. Kindaichi, with his bold ass, goes to see Lady Matsuko and just flat out calls her out for being a killer. Like he's straight up, he's just like, oh, because you killed him. And she's just kind of like,
Me?
And I was just like, wow.
I did?
He calls her out for poisoning Wakayabashi with his cigarettes. And she gets ratted out by her mom. He talked to her mother, who I guess that day had seen her give Wakayabashi 2 whole packs of those cigarettes. There was no way that man was going to live. And then Then he reveals that her own son, Sukekiyo, saw her kill Suketake. Sukekiyo witnessed it. Like, where was he hiding at? It was so cheesy. It's like a whole scene where he's like, almost looks like he's hiding under a bed. It's just like,
he's always hiding in weird, awkward places.
he popped like out of a barrel.
Comedy.
It must have been they must have meant for it to be kind of funny, because, dude, I swear some of that shit is ridiculous.
Oh, jeez. So?
Almost wrapped up, though. Basically, Sukekiyo and Suzuma joined forces to conceal Matsuko's crimes of killing to force Tamayo to marry Sukekiyo. He reveals, he being Kindaichi, the relation of Sahei and Haruyo Nonomiya, which Matsuko seems like she had no idea that he was even going to know that. Like, you really did your research, motherfucker. At this point, Sukekiyo's brought in by the police in cuffs, and brought before Matsuko one last time to reconnect with his mom for real, because the Tsukikyo that she picked up from the war all that time ago was not the real Tsukikyo, but
Nope.
Suzuma. So he never even really met his mom face to face all this time. All this time.
Parted.
After 5 years.
I didn't. That's a long time.
Yeah. I know. I can't even imagine. So sad. And then, like, you finally reconnect and you're both going to prison.
Well, at least they get some bonding time, I guess. I don't know how that's going to work, though, if they're going to get separated or... I don't know. For you, left to the imagination.
Yeah. At this point, everybody needs to know the whole story. The rest of the family, us as the audience, King Daichi needs to do his, job as a detective and tell us exactly what happened. We need to have a nice little bow on it. So everybody gathers one last time.
Little cherry on top, please.
Matsuko on one side and everybody on the other side, so that they can get the full story of what happened here. Now, King Daichi explains certain plot points, like how Suzuma and Tsukikyo switched places to make the handprint happen.
Mm-hmm.
They basically stalled it off as long as possible because they were like, there's no way. And then they had come into contact at one point and they were like, hey, just switch me.
We need to
switch me
fill
out.
this void.
It was shortly after Tsukikyo, as the veteran, the second masked man, signed into the inn earlier in the movie. Shortly after, they go and switch places, and then he does the handprint the next day, something like that.
Sneaky little bastard.
Right? Matsuko recounts how she strangled Suketomo at one point with the koto string. Or, no, actually, it wasn't koto string. She planted the koto string on him, but she strangled him with a braided rope. Quite a bloody scene, honestly. She broke that guy. That was wild. I didn't think she had it in her. The person who she strangled at one point, Suketomo, scratched at her. At one point, scratched at her hand or her finger or something like that. Bit her finger. No, I think he bit her finger in an attempt to get her to let go. Because at one point, someone brings up... well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Basically, her sons and the two Tsukikyos, they've been moving every single body that she's killed. I don't know about the head on the mannequin. They don't really explain that one. When her son murdered... when the mom murdered Suzuma, the fake Tsukikyo, her son hid that one too. Like, just waiting in the wings. Expert body disposal. That's what it was. There is a blind lady in the movie who Matsuko ends up playing the koto for, and she hurt her finger, but she continues playing the koto anyways, and the blind lady is able to sense that she's playing through an injury, and she's like, I didn't know why at the time, but it makes sense now. It's because she had gotten injured.
I forgot there was a blind lady.
She plays such a small role. They show her like twice in the movie.
Oh, I might remember. Yeah. One scene.
At one point, Matsuko, after everything is fully revealed, states that she's going to take full responsibility for everything to try and lessen, the burden on her son. As a penance to everybody for killing their sons. Just killed so many people. But their mistake, them being the police, was in letting Lady Matsuko smoke one last cigarette. Because she smokes the fucking poison made out of poppies and kills herself. Slips right through their fingers.
Damn. Typical.
So, typical. King Daichi gets paid for his work by Furutachi. Everybody tries to say goodbye to him before he leaves out of town. And instead, King Daichi comically runs off to the train station and sneaks out of town to avoid awkward goodbyes.
From the end. No girl from the end.
He literally just Scooby-Doo's his way out of town with his hat on his head.
But that's not the end of his adventures, because apparently that actor plays Kendaichi, the detective, in what other movies were here? Let me share my screen real quick. So apparently, after that movie, he plays in The Devil's Ballad, where he's a detective again. And then in 78, he's in, what was it? Queen Bee, Devil's Flute, The House of Hanging.
Oh, wow.
And apparently in that same year, it's Gokumanto, but I don't know what that movie is, or that's just the Japanese version of another movie I just mentioned. The Adventures of Kosuke Kandaichi. And then another one, Death at an Old Mansion. Yeah, there's a lot of detective. Now, the Inugamis actually are based off of a book series by Seishi Yokomiza. He was born in 1902 to 1981. He's the creator of the Kosuke Kindaichi series. Renowned mystery novelist, I guess this guy was. His first case, The Honjin Murders, is a novel of locked room murder in an old family, which many people regard as one of the best Japanese detective novels. So yeah, it's like 76 novels, 56 million books worldwide, appearing in numerous television stage adaptations. It's crazy. But a lot of murder mysteries with this detective, and I'm kind of curious to watch other movies with this detective now, and I wonder if they're as good.
It definitely wasn't super scary for me personally. I think there was only like really one jump scare that really got me, and I think it was Suke Tomo's reveal with his body on the roof. I was like, oh.
Yeah, a little bit of a shocker.
I did not like the guys trying to force themselves on Tamayo. Like, ew. That hard up for some sex?
Yeah, well, that's the movie. Do you know any of the other movies that this actors are in? Is this the first time you're seeing these actors?
This is my first time, but I gotta admit, honestly, it was really good. I'm sure there was some stuff that I lost a little bit in the translation. Mostly in the beginning, it seemed to tighten up towards the end. Middle to the end.
Yeah. I know Koji Izizaka has been in many of Ichikawa's films, as I mentioned when we started. Queen Bee, Gokumanto, The House of Hanging, The Devil's Ballad, and The Inugamis. But were you the one that mentioned in the Inugamis he just plays a character? I think he plays the detective in the remake. Don't quote me on that. I haven't checked because I haven't watched it. But yeah.
Wow.
Great fucking movie.
They really make you think that so many people are the killer. They're like, Enzo. I was like, I'm sure he killed somebody. Tamayo, I was like, I like her for it. She's everywhere. She sees everybody right before they die.
You're so sure that you know how this movie's gonna go because it's so cliche, but nope, you don't.
I should have seen the body switching thing because I was like, how did they pull off the handprint? That's really got to be Sukekiyo. And I really didn't get that there was doubles going on there. I mean, with the two masked men, you kind of have to assume, but at the same time, it'd only really be possible if they were working together, and I didn't think they were working together at all. So
that's why the film is so influential for that time, because I don't think a movie in Japan had been done like that, where you have double murderers helping each other and so many twists and turns that you didn't know. It was a crazy time.
And Lady Matsuko, man, she was vicious. She was willing to do whatever it took to get the job done. She was like, I need this money.
$555 billion.
Yeah, no kidding.
What would you do? What would you do? Well, what would you rate this movie?
I would rate this movie, gosh, I mean, especially for that time, some of the practical effects were a little cheesy, but I mean, it was the kind of camp that I liked. I felt like they leaned into it. I'm personally gonna have to give it like a 3.5 thumbs out of 5.
That's better than nothing. I would give it. I would have to give it a 4 because I thought it was very interesting for the decade it was made in and the storytelling and mystery behind it. I thought it was different for a Japanese thriller. I wouldn't call it a horror film, but it's more like a horror suspense or thriller suspense. But yeah. Well, I hope you all enjoyed the Inugami's review, and we have yet more to come on the Dissecting Cinema channel, and you can expect to see more Ayrflo on this channel as well, and our other host keep popping in every now and then.
Honestly, I hope I didn't talk too much. I definitely really enjoyed this film, and I was pausing a lot to try and write as many notes as possible.
Me too.
Because I wanted to make
That's
sure.
That's what happens.
I want to make sure I knew what I was talking about by the end of it. Again, never knew that his first name was Kosuke. Wow.
Yeah. I am looking forward to the next episode, episode 3, which will hopefully be coming within the next month. But yeah, Dissecting Cinema did it again!